I do want to at least talk about a reason why you should vote against Democrats. Not that I think it's perfect to vote for Republicans, but we have this story from Timcast.com. Amazon leadership held a session to discuss Matt Walsh's best-selling children's book, Johnny the Walrus, being problematic. A customer said that it's teaching kids to kill and bully transgender people.
What?
This is Matt Walsh's book. This is Amazon being insane and going over the top. Now, there's not much to say beyond this. We know Amazon does this. We know who they are. That's the news. My point is, the reason why I would like to vote for a Republican is to get rid of this stuff. I want school boards to say, look, we don't want critical praxis in our schools. What does the left say? Republicans are banning math. And this works because there are people who just watch CNN. They believe it. And then I'll respond and say, nobody banned math. Well, what about Ron DeSantis banning math books? He banned math books that were filled with critical praxis. I don't want books banned. I want curriculum of critical praxis and Christian praxis banned, because kids should be taught 2 + 2 = 4. Moving on. If the kid says, I have a question about mommies and daddies, talk to your parents about it. If the kid says, I have a question about my spirituality and my faith back, talk to your parents about it. Keep it out of the schools. Praxis, the implementation of the ideology should be kept out. If those are the rules we're playing by, I'm totally fine with it.
Amen, man. Good story.
What we need is more candidates to step up and run for election that believe in the things that you believe, Tim, that believe that CRT in the classroom is wrong. We need more people running like the parents in Loudoun County who challenged the school board. We need people to stand up, and we need people to show up to vote. And that's how you take the party back, and that's how you bring real change. It doesn't happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight for Ronald Reagan, who first made the speech in 1964 in support of Barry Goldwater. It took 20 years.
So I have no issue if a school has a book on critical race theory in the school. I have no problem if the school has a Bible in the school. I have no problem if the teachers say, if you go to the library, you can read the book. I don't care. We don't want to ban those books. You can read it. You can ask questions about it. Well, my issue is with what's called praxis. In this instance, it's not critical race theory. It's critical race applied principles or critical race praxis. The left calls it critical race praxis, which is the implementation of the ideology in other subjects. An example would be writing a math problem that says, Seamus is a white male who is stopped by police and frisked 7 times per year. Andre is a black man who is stopped 247 times per year. What percentage of stops are... So it's supposed to be a math problem, but they inject critical race theory into it, and that's the praxis. Now, we call it critical race applied principles because that spells crap. And we don't want crap in our schools. But no, in all seriousness, the left doesn't call it critical race praxis, which is already CRP, which is crap, basically.
Well, race has an RA in it, so you could just call it crap as well.
Well,
crap.
It's just funny how pedantic we have to get about distinguishing between these different forms of left-wing thought, which are near identical as conservatives, when they just say everyone who disagrees with them is a Nazi, and that's the one label that they use.
Well, the problem, I think, is they lie all the time.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah, look at the story.
They then lie about... Taylor Lorenz is a great example. She went on CNN and said, the right-wing media lies. And it's fascinating because...
That's projection. That's always projection on their part.
It's Darvo, right? Deny, attack, reverse, victim and offender. It's them who's lying. You can only trust me. It's people like Brian Stelter who tells you not to watch Fox News.
Mika Brzezinski is guilty of that too,
right.
Explaining that it's her job to tell you what to think.
Well, that's our job. And then they denied it later, and then Snopes comes out and says, that's not true, it never happened. Or Joe Biden reaching out to shake the hand of somebody that's not there. And then and Snopes comes out and says, he never did it. Or what was it? What was it? Snopes? I think it was Snopes. He never actually did it. And it's like, dude, you're fact checking an opinion with your own opinion.
Yeah.
You're just lying. That's what they do. That's the game they play.
And then they come up with something like the 1619 Project in the New York Times, and they infuse our schools with it, which is an ideologically driven fabrication of American history, especially the founding. The founding fathers, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, was opposed to slavery. Only 2 states. That's right. In the Declaration really did mean all men are created equal. 2 states opposed it, Georgia and South Carolina. You had to compromise at that time. The letters, the history really tells you that it really wasn't based upon slavery or racism, that there was really a movement to move beyond that and oppose slavery.
One of the original grievances in the Declaration of Independence was that the king had taken people from their homeland, brought them there against their will, and was using them to wage war against them. Jefferson took that out because the southern states that were pro-slavery would not sign on so long as the other colonists and leaders opposed slavery. Now, they had slaves, and it was bad. A lot of bad things happened. Many countries still have slaves. It's really, really bad. But that I think, I don't know if that was the biggest mistake made, but it was a big mistake because that divide, that compromise, it didn't end there. That tacit agreement of, look, we'll overlook this for now so we can win a revolution. And then 80 years later, we're in civil war. And now, and then 80 years after that, well, World War II, but that's not domestic. You ended up with Jim Crow laws. You ended up with the Klan. You ended up with this conflict that was just seemingly never ending. And if you look back at everything we're dealing with today, it's all rooted going all the way back to even before this. The problem is they need you to believe that the founding fathers were evil so that they can justify destroying American culture, because from the ashes of the old, they will build anew.
Correct.
They want a completely different system. What they want is a multicultural democracy. People need to understand when Elizabeth Warren comes out and says this is dangerous for our democracy, and these Democrats say this, they are not referring to your country, because you, good sir watching this show, believe in a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And conservatives say, you're wrong. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. No, you don't. You misunderstand. They are telling you that there is a new multicultural democracy growing in the United States. They're not making mistakes about it.
And they're going after the symbolism. They want to invalidate the 4th of July. They want to deny its value, and they want to move to a June 19th type of celebration that will overshadow the July 4th celebration.
I do think it's odd that we celebrate the introductions to war so often, like Pearl Harbor, July 4th. What other days got us into war that we celebrate? I don't know. But then
9/11?
9/11 was another one.
But not celebrate.
We don't. Well, you could say
We observe.
We observe and/or celebrate. The 4th of July is definitely a celebration. Why don't we celebrate the day that the war ended?
Good point. But
I
July
think Veterans
4th,
Day, right?
Yeah.
July
Veterans
4th,
Day is the only example I could find, and they changed the name from Armistice Day,
Armistice
celebrating
Day,
the end of
that's
the
right.
war, to Veterans Day, celebrating the warriors themselves.
but by the way, we were at war for a year before the Declaration of Independence.
Technically, way longer than that. So the American War for Independence took 20 years. And a lot of these moments, I mean, they were going back 10 or so, 20 years before, or I think 10 or so years before the signing of the Declaration. So the British regulars shooting people, the conflict, the confiscations, all that was going on. It just wasn't at the point of people marching towards each other.
I think that they celebrate the inductions into war because it's war propaganda. They use it like, remember that we're the victim and we had to fight. I don't know. That's how I've been phrasing it. So maybe, I don't know, what's up with the June 19th thing that you were talking about? What is that exactly?
That was the day that Union soldiers made it to the last place in the country in Texas. I think it was it Galveston?
Yeah.
Where the last slaves had not been informed they were free men, and finally ended slavery.
Okay. So it's worth celebrating as a end of slavery kind of thing.
I
don't think it has anything to do with July 4th, though. I don't
No.
know why those two would be in the same conversation.
I think Juneteenth is cool. I think like, we get a holiday in June to have barbecue and celebrate freedom and independence. I'm totally for it. Slavery was abhorrent, and it took that long to get rid of it. I say we do another holiday and we celebrate the end of slavery, the real end of slavery. And we also have the 4th of July, when our founding fathers set forth a new nation that was one of the first at the time to challenge these monarchs, these absolute authorities, and say, of, for, and by the people. Was it perfect? No, but it planted these seeds. And of the seeds planted, we were blessed with people like Frederick Douglass, who challenged the American people to uphold the words that they themselves had put in their own constitution about all men being created equal, which ultimately led to the abolition of slavery. And many other countries retained slavery and still have slavery to this day. Slavery was bad. The 4th of July, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution are all good things. Juneteenth is also a good thing. I will take 2 holidays. I think
Absolutely.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, but also for whatever reason, we are a nation which doesn't want to celebrate the fact that we ended slavery. We want to scold ourselves for the fact that it ever happened, even though virtually every culture throughout all of history has had some form of it, and we ended it.
Well, it's a political cudgel, but the Democrats wield it all the time. But if you go back and, Louis Gohmert did a good monologue on that on the House floor about the history of the Democratic Party and slavery. They were the South in the Civil War. They were Jim Crow. They were the KKK.
Mm-hmm.
They were the they reinstituted segregation under Woodrow Wilson. Okay, segregated the government and the army again. So, the Democratic Party acts as though they are the defenders of freedom and of the slaves, but they were the ones behind it for most of the American history.
And they're also the party that just tried to repeal the civil rights provisions from the California Constitution only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. They also argue that there was a party switch, and so the Democratic Party can't be held accountable or looked upon negatively for the fact that they supported slavery, they supported Jim Crow, etc. And yet, when you look at the nation as a whole, everyone is to blame, right? Basically, all white Americans are to blame to some extent for slavery, even though it ended. The history of it still remains. But then when you talk about the Democratic Party, the legacy of that just disappeared instantly, right? The party switched, and then the legacy of slavery and racism within the Democratic Party just vanished overnight. And not in the country as a whole, just in like the pocket where it's convenient for us to say it disappeared,
Seamus.
even though studies show that white liberals dumb their language down when they talk to black people.
It was actually this one moment where every single Democrat, like a strike of lightning,
Exactly.
just went, I was wrong.
Yep.
And the whole country changed.
It's true.
Yeah.
And every Republican was hit,
at once.
conversely, by that same lightning.
It's like, oh,
And
we're
immediately it was
racist now. Oh, no. They've sent their racism to us.
No, they wouldn't say, oh, no. They would go, oh, yes. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.